Remembering one of the greatest tragedies in post-apartheid South Africa, Marikana being remembered 5 years on. And just to look at some of the comments today at the commemoration, EFF leader Julius Malema said the working class people were killed by government just as they were under apartheid. DA leader Mmusi Maimane saying in reference to President Jacob Zuma that a dictator was at the helm then and is still being protected. Now, while state complicity has not been absolutely proven and no one has been prosecuted for any murders, the police certainly criticised for overreacting that day and gross incompetence in public policing. And now on the eve of today's commemoration, Corruption Watch and the Institute of Security Studies launched a survey to encourage the public to voice their opinion about policing in South Africa right now. So let's speak to David Lewis, head of Corruption Watch. Thank you for being with us, David. Pleasure. At the worst level, 5 years ago, police hunted down and shot people at close range, cold-blooded murder, at the very least, incompetence. Where do you stand on that scale when you look back?
Well, you know, both the posts of Commissioner and the head of the Hawks are vacant, and we have mounted this campaign around getting competent, appropriate people appointed to these positions, which has very rarely been the case in the past. And if you recall, at Marikana, the Helm Commission identified the incompetence and gross inexperience of both the Commissioner of Police at the time, as well as the Divisional Commissioner responsible for the Northwest. The Commissioner had been in office for about 3 months. She'd been a social worker. She never had any experience in policing at all, or in managing an institution even marginally as large or as complex as the police service, with 200,000 employees and a 90 billion rand budget, and one of the most complex jobs in the country to do. So we're saying, as the Helm Commission said, that police leadership had a large role to play in the Marikana massacre, and we're campaigning for an appointment process that leads to a more appropriate appointment. So
we'll get to that, and you're campaigning for improvements. Has anything changed, though, in the last 5 years, if you look at policing?
Well, you know, things have gotten worse, actually. I mean,
really?
Well, if you look at the data, you know, conviction rates detection rates are down, conviction rates are down, violent crimes are up, corruption is infamous. Across all the range of serious crimes, aggravated robbery, murder, assault, as I say, corruption, all of these are up, and the police response, despite a substantial increase in their budget, is down. So things have gotten worse. You know, in that period, we've had the head of the Hawks appointed, despite a prior judgment of the High Court finding him to have lied under oath. Pierre was suspended for years, for ages. Eventually her contract ran out, so she left with her full pension benefits, I might add. And we now have an acting commissioner and an acting head of the Hawks, which sounds familiar with many big government institutions, but this one is particularly serious.
Were you encouraged by the new police minister, Fikile Mbalula, at least not backing the former head of the Hawks?
No, absolutely.
Are there signs, good signs?
No, I think that was a good sign. I don't agree with all of the stances of the police minister. But certainly that was good, and now this has to translate into the appointment of a permanent head. He is particularly responsible for the appointment of the head of the Hawks, but the president has an absolutely unfettered discretion to appoint the head of the police, the commissioner, and we are going to be looking at that very closely and trying to propose and have implemented a different appointment process.
So you want the public to get involved.
Yeah.
Do you have influence, Corruption Watch and ISS, over the eventual appointment, or will this be a more rhetorical exercise?
No, I think the public potentially have influence. You know, we do live in a democracy, however imperfect it sometimes might seem, and in a democracy what the public think still counts. And that's why we've launched this survey, to ask the public what they think the attributes of the head of a police service should possess, what they think the priorities should be. And we want police officers, policemen and policewomen to fill in the survey as well. And we will use that to try and influence the appointment process. Ultimately, it will be the president who makes the appointment. But public scrutiny will do good now, and whoever gets appointed will know at least that the public are alert to what they think should be the case. They're better informed, and they'll be better informed of the character of the person who is appointed.
Let's start with the National Commissioner. Can you venture before those results come in? A lot of people complaining, looking back at Marikana, at the politicization of the police. Do we need a real technocrat there?
Well, we need, I think that we need an experienced police officer, and there are high-ranking police officers in this country who possess the expertise to do this.
So we have the skills.
We have the skills, and we have the budget, and we have the personnel, the person power. The problem is that the leader, the permanent appointments that have been made to these positions are political appointments. They're appointed for reasons of their loyalty to the president of the time, except the Mandela appointment, rather than for their competence, experience, integrity. And that's what we want to predominate. It's interesting to know that the criteria for becoming police commissioner are far less onerous than the criteria for becoming a police constable.
Sure.
Quite something, that.
All right, and the head of the Hawks, what are we looking for there?
Yeah, I mean, this is a unit that investigates high-profile, white-collar crimes for the most part, that very often very powerful people are at the end of. They may be very powerful politicians, very powerful public servants, very powerful business people. And so you need somebody in the Hawks situation above all who is willing to take on powerful people, who is willing to act without fear or favor, as his oath of office and the legislation requires. That's what you need. You don't need somebody who feels it okay to lie to courts, who goes and hunts down the Minister of Finance because the President doesn't like the Minister of Finance. That's what we had last time round. And, look where we are now. He was fired, as you point out, largely because of the insistence of the current minister that he goes. And he needs to be replaced by somebody able to do this job. And as I say, I have no doubt that there are people in the police services capable of doing it. So
you're talking about South Africa in general. And if we look back, these people in these new posts need to know they are responsible and will be responsible if something like Marikana happens under their watch. What does it say about our democracy? You're interested in transparency, corruption, things like that nobody has been held accountable. There are 72 names. That the minister at the time is still in cabinet. That generally cabinet is there. It happened under their watch.
No, it's extraordinary. I mean, impunity and the fact that people are not held accountable is a principal reason for the state that we find ourselves in. I mean, obviously I know more about corruption than anything else, but there's no doubt about it that because the risk of engaging in corruption from a criminal law enforcement perspective is so low, that people feel quite comfortable engaging in corruption. And I don't doubt that policemen feel quite comfortable in undertaking sort of revenge killings, which is in a sense what the Marikana massacre was all about. Because they feel confident that they're not going to be acted against, much as those who killed policemen and security guards in the run-up to the Marikana massacre probably also feel that they are not going to be, the chance of them being acted against are slim. And so the spiral continues. And, all of us face the problem, which is why this campaign has attracted not only people who are interested in corruption, it's attracted people who are interested in gender violence, in xenophobia, in crime in general, in gun control. All of us have a relationship to the police. There are many people in this country who have no relationship to any other public official other than the police. And that's where you start to make up your mind about fairly or unfairly, about the quality of our public service. So these are very important positions.
And unfortunately, I mean, just anecdotally, not everyone trusts the police.
Exactly.
You don't feel immediately safe if there's a cop car following you, for instance.
Well,
so if the public wants to get involved and talk about policing in South Africa, how do they do that?
They should go onto our website or onto the Institute for Security Studies website, but ours is corruptionwatch.org.za, and they'll get access to the survey, which is very easy to fill in, and where we will keep informing the public and the authorities and the parliamentary committees who have a strong appetite for being involved in the appointment process of the outcome of the survey. And we will be generating information about potential candidates. We are asking for the proposal of the National Development Plan to be implemented and of the police report, which effectively says that the unfettered discretion of the President to appoint without consultation with anybody is inappropriate.
All right, so people can get involved. I hope they do. Thank you for your time this evening. Head of Corruption Watch, David Lewis. All right, now we continue with the